Hello, YouTubers. This is Eddie Johnson, aka EJ, the Automotive Detailer Innovator. And I'd like to share with y'all how I got into buffing, buffing out automobiles. Now, I didn't automatic start off as a automotive detailer. My interest in in the automotive detailing trade was a little different. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and Mobile, Alabama sits on the Gulf Coast. And while living in Mobile, Alabama, 22 years, well, the first 22 years of my life, they had two major hurricanes that I could recall within my time span. The first one was Hurricane Camille, which hit the Gulf Coastal area in 1969. In 1969, I was 8 years old. The next major hurricane that came through the Gulf Coast coastal area or hit the Gulf Coastal area was in 1979, which was actually 10 years after the first hurricane that I experienced in 1969. Okay, at this time, I was 18 years old. And like I said, the first time in 1969, I was 8 years old. All right, our family was living out in the suburbs, and I would say before moving out to the suburbs, the first um, almost 18 years of my life living in Mobile, Alabama, we lived in what some would consider poverty communities. So this was my family and my first time living out in the suburbs. Okay, when Hurricane Frederick hit the Gulf Coast area, if I'm not mistaken, it was between late August or maybe early September. It it was one of those months. I think it was late August, but it could have been early September. It devastated the Gulf Coastal area, especially the area my family and I was living in, which was called Dolphin Island Parkway. Now, one day I was on the basketball court watching I was on the sideline of the basketball court watching two of my younger brothers play basketball with other players. And this guy came riding into the park. He was driving this Ford Custom truck, right? And when he pulls up in front of the area where most of the guys are hanging around at, some on the court, some standing on the sideline, he gets out his truck and he says uh, that he's looking for a couple guys and he would pay them and also give them lunch to come over to his home and help move debris from the hurricane. The name of the hurricane was Hurricane Frederick. The debris that Hurricane Frederick left in his yard. He told us he had a three-storage boathouse, and the hurricane had blown the boathouse down, and he had lumber all in his yard, and lumber like in the water around the area where the boat was docked at. So we're looking at this guy, and everybody noticing this guy's a stranger. So we're like, nobody's saying anything about going anywhere with this guy. And then, so the next thing the guy says, he says, y'all family should know who we are, and y'all family, some of y'all family might even do business my brother and I, and he said that his name was Big, and his brother's name was Zip. And he said the service station that been in business, full-time service station, that sold Amoco gas, was had been in business for 35 years. When he said he was Big and his brother's name was Zip, I recall seeing the big service station on Dolphin Island Parkway. If you coming into Dolphin Island Parkway from, say, downtown Mobile, from downtown Mobile to Dolphin Island Parkway, you'll pass Zip and Biggs. If you leave Dolphin Island Parkway going to downtown Mobile, you'll pass by Zip and Biggs. So I had passed by Zip and Biggs several times. So I told the guy, I'll go with you. And then one of my brothers out of the two brothers told the man, I'll go too. So we went, we worked approximately 8 hours. Like the guy said, he fed us. He added up the hours that we worked times the amount of money he said he would pay us, and he paid us. He must have told someone else, because next couple of days, another guy came into the park, and I just happened to be in the park again. And he told us his name, and he said that he had a lot of hurricane debris in his yard, front and backyard, and he was looking for the Johnson brothers. So I said, we're the Johnson brothers. This time it's two of my brothers and myself. We all go. He asked us, did we want to go make some money cleaning out the debris out of his yard, his family yard. We said yes. So we did work for this family. This family was a Filipino family. Okay, after we did that, then their mother and youngest brother lived around the corner. So we did that particular family, which was the same family, extension of the same family. And the last family we did was the oldest brother out of the whole Filipino family. He came and picked us up. He came inquiring about us, and we was in the park again. All three times we was in the park, but by this time, um, after we did the work for the initial guy, Big, we told Big we lived down on Stewart Road. So I guess if they didn't catch us at the park, maybe they might have came down Stewart Road to see if they could find us. So we did work for the last family, and the guy paid us. Now he told us it would take us 2 days to do the work, and he said that he would pay us $400 when we got through. We get over to his house, and I look at the yard and I look at the debris, and I asked him, would he pay us the same amount of money if we could finish the job that day? And he said, yeah, you could finish that day, but I don't see y'all finishing that day. And I said, my man, I don't plan on coming back here another day to make the money. My brothers and I, we're going to finish this yard today. So I told my brothers how we was going to do it, and we got it done. And so when the guy paid us and we got in his truck, he was taking us back to the park where he picked us up at. He asked us what we were going to do with the money that we had earned from him. He said, to make $400 in one day is damn good money. He said, what do y'all plan on spending y'all money on? My two brothers said they was going to go home, take a shower, go to the mall and buy some clothes. He asked me, he said, since you the oldest, I would ask you what you going to do with your money that you made for cleaning my yard. I told him I wasn't sure. And he said that the object of making money is taking old money. He called it dollars. He said turning old dollars into new dollars. And I asked him, how can you turn old dollars into new dollars? I asked him, do you go to the bank and you take your old dollars and you trade them with the bank, or do you buy? Are you suggesting that we buy marijuana? What are you suggesting that we do to turn our old dollars into new dollars? He told me, no, I'm not suggesting that you sell marijuana, and I'm not suggesting that you take your old dollars into the bank and trade them in for new dollars. He said to make old dollars make new dollars. You invest your money into something that's going to give you some form of return. And he said, you always want to make a legitimate investment. And he said, won't y'all just think about what I said about making old dollars um, turn into new dollars before you spend your money? And maybe y'all could figure out something on your own that you want to do, that you could invest the money that you made, not just off me today, but off the other families that y'all cleaned up hurricane debris. So he dropped us off in the park. My brothers, my two brothers say, forget what he said. We going home, take a shower, and we gonna go to the mall, which they did. Now, with me, since I was older, and I already was previously, I was a street hustler. I had been in the streets from shooting pool at the pool house, from rolling dice and playing cards. So when he planted that idea about making old dollars make new dollars, it stuck in my brain. I didn't know at the time what I was going to invest my money in, but I knew I was going to do something. All right. The next day, I walk up on the highway, and I walk into this pawn shop. I'm walking around in this pawn shop, and I'm looking at items, and I'm saying to myself, maybe I'll buy something out of here. I come across a old buffer. I picked up this buffer, and it felt like it weighed 30 pounds. Matter of fact, it was a Milwaukee one-speed buffer. It wasn't a dial down. It was one speed. You plug it in electricity, mash the trigger, and it just go, right? Almost like a grinder or a sander or something. So I asked the pawn owner, I said, how much you want for this buffer? Now, I can't recall the actual price, but the price, when he gave me the price, it was alarming to me. And I said, wow, man, this buffer is old, and you trying to get this much money for an old buffer? And he told me, son, you could make the money back that you spent on this buffer by buffing out 2 cars. Now, at the time, this guy didn't know I didn't have a car, but I didn't own no car, right? And he said, if you don't make your money back, and if you don't make back the money that you paid me for this buffer in 2 cars, you're not charging enough money. Okay, first thing came to my mind was making old dollars turn to new dollars. So I bought the buffer. The next following, I didn't use the buffer. I didn't use the buffer right away because I didn't have a car. Okay, the next following year, I had been sitting on this buffer 6 months, maybe 8 months. The next following year, I bought my first car. It was a Ford Mustang 1969 fastback with the 4 headlights. I bought the my first car, and I started buffing on it. Now, back then, this car didn't have no clear coat on it. It just had base enamel paint on it, right? And I wasn't familiar with paint like I am now, and like I got to be later as time went on. Bear in mind, it was before I ever worked for anybody as an automotive detailer, right? So I wasn't knowledgeable on clear coat cars, because clear coat cars, a lot of the cars that I started off doing after I became a professional automotive detailer didn't have clear coat on them. So a lot of the cars that I was doing when I got my first automotive detailing job was base enamel paint. So I was buffing my car like every week, right? And I never noticed what I was doing to the paint. And one day my stepfather came out. I'm out in the yard, I'm buffing, and he said, "Boy, you buff that car every week." And he said that I see your paint is getting very thin on the passenger side. I told my stepfather in a joking manner, "Man, you don't know what you're talking about. There ain't nothing wrong with this paint. This paint is shining up fast." And he said, "All right, now, I warn you." So I get around to the passenger side of the car while buffing, and I look, and behold, he was right. The passenger side of the paint was so thin, I was able to see the primer. And that's when I realized I had messed up the paint job on that car. So since I already had to mess the paint job up on that side and that was my car, I said, okay, that's fine. You might well keep buffing this car until you learn how to buff correctly. All right, that was in 80. It was in 80 when I got my first job as an automotive detailer. Now, when I got my job as an automotive detailer, I didn't start off buffing any cars. I was buffing some cars on the side for some family members and friends and making a few dollars here and there. But when I got hired at the first dealership as an automotive detailer, I did all the prep work and I did the interior work. I did all prep work, interior work from 80 to 83. In 83, I left Mobile, Alabama, and I moved to Georgia. I got a job at a place called Z-Bart. Now, Z-Bart was also in Mobile, Alabama, not too far from the first automotive dealership I worked at as an automotive detailer. Now, I want to back up and mention this. Bear in mind, the whole time I worked at that dealership, I didn't buff no cars. The only cars that I had been buffing is cars that it was people cars that I knew, right? And I was still buffing on my same car, but I wasn't buffing for no dealership or nothing like that. Okay, when I got hired on at Z-Bar in 83, I did prep work, like I said. I did all the prep and I did interior cleaning. Now, interior cleaning and prepping, I love prepping, but interior cleaning was getting very boring to me, and I was waiting on the opportunity to be able to buff uh, for a salon or dealership. I wanted to expand my automotive detailing experience. I wanted to be able to display how good I could buff, but it was looking like it wasn't gonna happen. So Z-Bart paid you on weird days. So one time we got paid on a Thursday. When Friday came, the guys that buffed, all the buffers that buff cars for Z-Bart didn't come to work. They all called in. Well, not called in, but called out sick. All right, it was like four other guys, and we was all just doing prep work and interior work. The supervisor that ran Z-Bar said, "Do any one of y'all know how to buff?" And I told him I could buff a little bit. Now I told him I could buff a little bit because I didn't want to sound cocky, and I wasn't sure um, what this guy expectation was. I have been looking at some of the buff jobs that the detailers that he had buffing cars uh, buff, and I was like, I knew I was better than those guys, but I didn't know if I was gonna be as good as this guy wanted me to be. So I didn't want to be cocky. So I told him I could buff a little bit. He said, "Well, I'm gonna need you to buff some cars out because the guy that do the buffing didn't come to work." So I think I buffed out three cars. Back then it was those old Ford Fairlanes. They was government cars, where the government bought these cars and they rode them around on military bases. And after they got through riding them around and they put certain amount of miles on them, they brought them to Z-Bar, and Z-Bar detailed them, and then they took those same government Ford Fairlanes and to the auction and sold them. So the supervisor said it don't have to be perfect, just buff or shine on them. So at the end of the day, like I said, I think I did about 3 buff jobs. At the end of the day, the supervisor came to me and he said, you could actually buff better than you think you could buff. And I'm going to take you from prepping and doing interiors and start letting you buff cars. I wanted to shout out because I was full of excitement and I had been waiting a long time to buff a car for a place that I actually worked for and get out of doing prepping and interior on a regular basis every time I go to work. And that's how I got my opportunity. If I wouldn't have never, first of all, if the Filipino guy, the last family that we did work for that paid us would have never planted the idea of taking old dollars, money that you're made previously, and investing it into something that's going to bring you some form of return. Now, you got to remember, this was in 79. So a lot of people wasn't thinking like that. You had been with the college or took some uh, special kind of trade course to even have the mindset to even think about that. Yes, when it came down to street hustling, a lot of the street hustlers took their old money and made new money, anywhere from pimping to selling drugs to boosting to flim flamming to gambling. You basically name it, a street hustler did it, right? And their money made them money. So whenever your old money and it's increasing your overall wealth, it's bringing you new money. If that Filipino guy would have never implanted in my brain making old dollars turn into new dollars, I'm not even sure if I would have ever had that mindset. Maybe later in life I might have, but who knows? I just know he planted that thought. He planted that thought one time, and from that point on, I've been using my money to make me money. And most of the money I've made in my life came from automotive detailing. I've stepped my automotive detailing game up uh, so high, working at various places in Georgia. And then when I came out here to Seattle, that was the first time I got my own business. Now, I used to do quite a bit of mobile detailing when I was living in Atlanta. I got linked up with this pain and suffering lawyer, and he had a lot of high end clients. Clients, right? And I detailed a couple calls for him, and he started turning me on to some families he knew that lived all in the same subdivision where he lived at, in what they called Cascade, um, part of Atlanta, Georgia, which is on the west side going toward Hightower, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark, Atlanta, and Clark, Atlanta, Spelman, Morehouse, and it's one more at Morehouse. Let me see. Spelman, Morehouse, Clark, Atlanta. It's another one. I can't think of the other one right now, but it was in the area of West Seattle, not West Seattle, but West Atlanta. So I got business like that. Since then, I've been um, I've been making old dollars turn new dollars. I came out here to Seattle area in September 1994. By the time June came of 1995, which is less than a year of me moving here, I had got my first automotive detail shop. And that's ever since then I haven't looked back. I've made a well-known name for myself, and it's nobody that's I've done work for, no dealerships or no individual person or no salon could say I gave them bad work. All right. Since then, I done invest so much of my money to make money. I'm gonna turn my camera around a little bit and let y'all see now. I have a regular 9 to 5 job, and my work schedule have me working Thursday through Monday, right? I've invested some of the money that I've made off of employees and others, customers that I know that I've done work for previously that still use me periodically. I've invested that money into upgrading my automotive detailing equipment because the goal is to go mobile in another year or so. I don't think I would get another detail shop, but I like to be set up to where I could go mobile, and who knows, I might open up another detail shop. That's kind of like up in the air. But I'm gonna turn this camera around. Now I don't have none of this stuff in order. I'm gonna put it in order, and next week, once I have it in order, next week I'll do another video, and I'll let y'all see how, you know what I mean, what order I got them in. But I'm gonna turn it around, the camera a little bit, and I'm trying to turn the camera around. Bear with me. Right there. Everything that you see on this table is automotive detailing equipment, right? Down here, I have a vacuum cleaner. Right here, I got a wet, dry vac carpet cleaner machine. I got a sandblaster down at the bottom. I have 4 Makita rotary bumpers. I have 2 dual action buffers. I have 3 DA buffers. I have palm sounders. If I turn the camera around this way and hold the camera down like this, I got the air compressor there. I have so much equipment that I bought this table to set all my equipment on. I even have a what they call it, ozone machine, and I also have what is it, a steamer. I have a steamer coming next week. Next week I have this more organized, and I display to y'all some of the equipment and chemicals I didn't invest. Now for those who wants to check out some of my work, I think I got about 260 something videos on YouTube, on this YouTube channel. I'm gonna turn this camera around a little bit and let you look and see that again, you know, and hopefully you can see it. And if you want to look at some of the cars I've done, it's on the YouTube channel. All right, this is EJ, the Automotive Detailing Innovator. I'm about to get ready to sign off, and thank you. Have a great day. Peace.